Listen to the Lord and Lady call their children. In the moonlight, listen to the Lord and Lady call their children. In the moonlight, listen to the Lord and Lady call their children.
Good morning, everyone. This is Natalie, and I will be your Sunday hostess for Witches of the Moon. This week we are talking about making oils and incense, and so I've gathered together a few things here because I'm just going to talk about the general process. I've had an opportunity to watch a couple of the videos from my other hosts this week, and I'm going to try to talk about it from a little bit different perspective. I know a lot of them have been showing how to make a specific incense or a specific oil, and so I want to just talk about making incense and making oils in general. Now, what you're going to need is a nice container with a nice tight lid. Now, I prefer the ones that have the corks. You can get these at pretty much any arts and crafts store. I actually got these from World Market before they shut down the one in Denton. They have another one that's not too far from my house in Frisco. I kind of live in between the two, but I also like this one because it looks like a little potion bottle. And I use this one for making my healing ointment. I make a salve for my husband who has a problem. So I use this oil in his salve that I make. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But you're going to need a container that's got a nice, good cork. And I prefer the ones with a cork myself. Although I will tell you that the oil will kind of leak into the cork a bit, like this one has. This is my rose oil that I made for anointing my candles and my love spells. That's actually really starting to smell really good. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the different ways, things that you can use to make oils and make incense. With incense, it's pretty much herbal-based, especially if you're making a loose incense, which most of us use. We use just the loose incense and we sprinkle it on the charcoals. Today I have my oil diffuser going. I love these ladies. Aren't they lovely? Holy little thing. I needed some calming, so I've got some lavender essential oil going on there. And actually, that brings me to a topic I want to discuss real quick. For those of you that have not subscribed to my personal channel, I have a video on there that explains the difference between magical oils and essential oils, because it is a very big difference. And I don't want anyone to be confused that we're making an essential oil here. We are not making an essential oil. Sometimes you will use essential oils in your magical oils and in your incenses. You can sprinkle a little essential oil, a couple of drops of essential oil, into a dry herb incense to give it a little oomph. So, but this is not how to make an essential oil, because you probably, unless you've got a lot of money and a whole heck of a lot of plant, you're not going to have the equipment or what you need to make an essential oil. An essential oil is the distilled essence of an herb. And what they do is, if you've ever watched moonshiners, they have a big distillery where they, boil up their stuff. Well, that's kind of how you make an essential oil. They take a lot of the plant, and it's very delicate. It breaks down very easy, which is why you'll often see them in these dark jars with a dropper tip or with a dropper itself, like an actual dropper, because these are very delicate and they're extremely potent. They don't take but a couple of drops. And I use these in my natural medicines that I make, as well as in my incenses and in my bath salts and everything too. So anyhow, how do you make a magical oil? Well, you can use pretty much any base oil that you wish, except mineral oil. Mineral oil has a negative effect on the herb, and I got that from Scott Cunningham. I had read somewhere else you could use mineral oil and it would be fine, but Scott Cunningham makes the point that there are chemicals within the mineral oil that break down the essence of the herb in a negative way. So I would avoid using this. Now, I use this as a bath oil. What I'll do is, after I shower, before I get out of the shower, and before I towel off, I just use a little bit of this, and it works really well. Baby oil does the same thing, but this is a little thicker. So do not use a regular mineral oil. Now, that being said, you can use a vegetable oil, although I do not like to use this because it's thick, it's heavy, and it has its own smell, which I personally do not find overwhelmingly pleasant. I find it kind of acrid. So I do not recommend using vegetable oil, although you can use this as a base oil. You can also use extra virgin olive oil, which you can get pretty big boxes. Usually you can find this stuff at Ross Dress for Less, believe it or not, for rather inexpensive. Now, olive oil works very well if the oil that you're using is going to be for like a topical oil. You know, it makes a great moisturizer. So if you're putting it into like a lip balm or into something like that, it's great. I don't like to use it for my magical oils for the mere fact that I find it is kind of thick, and olive oil has a strong smell of its own. Now, if I am out of my preferred oil, which is grapeseed oil, this stuff is not cheap. It's like $8, $9 for a bottle this size, but a little bit will last you. I've had this one for several months. I love grapeseed oil because it's very light. It doesn't really have much of an odor of its own. The little odor that it does have is very pleasant, and I find that it's a little bit, I don't know if you can tell, but it's a little bit thinner, you know, not as goopy as the olive oil. So this is my personal preference. I love to use grapeseed oil. So when you're making a magical oil, you want to be careful about what you're selecting. Make sure that you know your purpose for which you're working and for which you're making this oil, because magical oils should serve a specific purpose. Now, in this case, I was making rose oil because I wanted an oil I could anoint my candles with in love spells and anoint my papers with. And so essentially, all you do is you put your herb into your jar, and I'll show you. I'm going to make a magical oil for drawing money and for my business. My business is starting to grow. Yay! We just got a new contract with a local company who has a day hab center to provide speech therapy services to some of their clients, and I'm extremely excited because this will fill in very nicely some gaps. It's decent money for the work, and I'm ecstatic about it. But you know, as a business, I want to see my business grow. So I want to make a magical oil that's going to continue to bring that kind of success and referral to me. So as with any magic that you're doing, visualization is extremely important. You want to have your end game in mind, and that's what you want to be seeing. You don't want to sit there and say, gee, I'd love to have some, you know. No, you need to see. I will be getting these referrals. I see the phone ringing. I see the emails coming in. I see the referral forms coming to me. I see that my business is growing and that I'm needing to hire people. I see myself hiring another assistant or another speech pathologist. You know, whatever your goal is, you need to see yourself doing that. Now, to make your oil, all you're going to do is take your container. I'm going to skip this back a little bit. As you can see, I have my little... This is just one of my boxes I keep some of my herbs in. I got these herbs from the Witch Super Center. They're small bags. I paid, I think $40, and I got like 98 herbs. So it was not bad. They're small amounts, but it doesn't take a lot. So this will probably last me for a long time, and it had pretty much every herb you could think of. This isn't even half of it. I have more jars and stuff in there. So, but anyway, so what I'm going to be using is peppermint. Mint is always a good money drawing kind of thing. Basil, which is also really good, and I find it funny, but in one of his books, I believe it's this one, Magical Aromatherapy, Scott Cunningham makes a point of mentioning that prostitutes in Spain used to wear basil essential oil to draw clients to them. They'd wear it like a perfume. Thought that was funny. So basil's always a good one for money. I'm using pine because pine is good for prosperity and luck. And like it or not, when you're in business and there's competition, a little luck can go a long way. And I want to bring that prosperity to me, to my family, and also to my clients that I serve. I want to see them prosper in that they are gaining better communication skills and so forth. And patchouli, because I love patchouli. I love the earthiness of patchouli. I drink it in tea. I will open up my jars and just sniff it. because I like that earthy smell. It makes me feel connected. But it's also good for money. It's kind of a masculine herb, and so it's good for providing, I think. That's how I connect it. So when you are adding these herbs, you want to know why you're using these herbs. And as you put them into your jar, you want to say what your intention is for each of those herbs. So if I can get this open, because now I've got oil on my fingers. So I would say I'm adding basil to bring prosperity and new referrals to me. I'm adding peppermint to bring prosperity and money to me. I'm adding pine for luck in business and for prosperity. Now that I've made a mess. And incidentally, if you did not want to make an oil out of this, if you wanted to just use this as an incense, you could use it as a loose incense, and that is perfectly okay. You would just put it into I use little paper bags. You can buy little jewelry bags or gift bags at Walmart or any of the craft stores, and you can put your loose incense into that, and you just drop it onto your charcoals. Then I would say I'm adding patchouli for money and for fertility in my business. Fertility doesn't have to be just sexual, guys. So fertility in business, because you want your business to be fertile and to grow. I'm going to remove the sticks there. So once you have added your herbs, and you could put in more than this. This is just for demonstration purposes. So I like to kind of shake it up, mix it up a little bit. And then I will add my oil. Now, some people will add just like half oil and then add in half water. I personally don't like to do that. But you want to put in enough oil to at least cover your herbs. Now, what's the key to this is that you want to shake it up. Now, if this is an oil that you're trying to infuse, if you're making an infused magical oil, because you can use this right now to anoint whatever you want to do. This is good to go now. However, I like to let my magical oil sit for a while so that I know that the essence of those herbs and that purpose is infused into that oil and it's ready to go. So if you are going to do that, what you want to do is shake it a little bit. And you're going to do that every day. You can about 3 days is really all you need. So, dried herbs you can use for dry herb incense. Just sprinkle them together in a bowl. Make sure you're stating your intention for that. And then you can take it and use it immediately to sprinkle on your charcoal. Or if you want to make a magical oil, you mix the herbs, add your oil. If you're wanting it to infuse, you need 3 days roughly. And you just shake it. Shake it a little bit every day. You don't have to shake it, all the time, but just a little bit. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about my healing oil because I just love this jar. I'm going to go find me another one. This oil I continue to shake every day because, as you can see, kind of some of the essence of the herb has kind of gathered on the bottom. So I kind of shake it up. When I'm using this oil, I use this as an additive to salves that I make. When I make my salves, which might even be a different topic. So you know what? I'm not gonna go into detail about that. But you can use your magical oils in salves. You can put them in lip balms, which I make my own lip balm. So that's a good one. Now my last batch was a little not as creamy as I like, but it sure smelled good and had good flavor. But I might have wanted to have added a little bit more oil to that. But that would be how you make a magical oil. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of really good things. This Magical Aromatherapy by Scott Cunningham. I dearly love Scott Cunningham, the late Scott Cunningham. I wish he was still with us because he had so much knowledge about herbs. There's actually a video on YouTube that the BBC did. It's an hour long, and it's him talking about the different herbs. So you might do a YouTube search on Scott Cunningham special and pull that up and watch that because he is fantastic. The man has more knowledge than anybody I've ever seen when it comes to herbs. And what I liked about this particular book, as you can see I made a lot of notes, is he talks about the quality how to know if something actually has an essential oil. Some herbs do not have an essential oil available. So if you're wanting to use essential oils in your oil making, check this before you buy any, because he makes a point of telling you what the basic price point's going to be for certain oils and how to know the difference between a true essential oil or a quality essential oil and like a mixed oil or a blend, you'll often see them labeled as. The other book that I would strongly recommend that you get, which was for me the go-to source, it's another Scott Cunningham book. This has everything you could ever want to know about making incense, oils, and brews. And I'll tell you what, this book was a fantastic read. He's got all kinds of recipes in here. He does list some that are toxic for the sake of having the old knowledge. But what I love about it is he has it broken down by incense. He has it broken down by oils. You know, gives you lots of recipes for different things. Herbal baths and sachets or herbal charms, as well as where is it? Substitutions, which for me was important because having a limited income and having a limited support, so to speak, I don't always have the exact herbs that are called for in certain things. So I loved this book because it told me which ones I could use. It also tells you how to make the stick incense if you want to learn how to make that. It's a little bit of a process, so I have never tried it, but it is one of my goals for this summer. So again, Incense, Oils, and Brews by Scott Cunningham. Excellent, excellent resource for making any kind of magical oil that you could need. And he goes into a lot of really good detail about what you can use, where they come from, why you would use it, who used it prior, where we get this knowledge from, and it was just a really good read. So I hope that this video has been a little bit helpful to you, and I appreciate you watching. Have a blessed week.